our um, mentoring series on HR Champions Essential. I'm just putting on my screen properly, and I will be starting my video shortly if I can get my makeup done properly. So we'll give it a few more minutes so that we would have um, as many participants who would like to join, and we will start off in about a couple of minutes. So I see more people are joining, and we will just give them time to join and come in. And then I hope you can also see the screen, the presentation slides.
Yes, we can.
Excellent. Thank you very much. That's champion of HR mentoring program for HR professionals. The program is built to start at 4 p.m., so it's already past 4 p.m., and we have a good number of participants. So I would officially welcome everybody and would kick off with the webinar. So let's start, of course. I will just introduce myself very briefly. My name is Omar Bishe Barrow, and everybody calls me Bishe for short. I'm the founder and chief executive of Learning Impact Nigeria. In terms of my background and experience, I'm a chartered accountant. Previously, I worked in investment banking, pension fund administration, and asset management. But I have spent the last 15 years or so as a human resources management professional, essentially providing corporate training, organizational development, strategy consulting, and human resources technology solutions to leading organizations across the private, not-for-profit, and the public sectors. I am an author, an innovator, entrepreneur, educator, and a social commentator. And Learning Impact has put together this program really for a number of reasons. And I'd like to just share these reasons with us before we begin this inaugural mentoring session. So first important reason, as you may see on the screen, is the very important impact of human resources management. Very important to organizational success, yet unfortunately quite neglected. So what we find is that human resources management practices, human resources professionals do not really have the front seat and the front center seat in our organizations and in our corporate decision making. And that's one of the reasons why we decided to do this program, to intervene in this way. There are also huge capacity gaps among human resources management professionals. Unfortunately, lots of professionals do not really understand the new mandate of HR and what it is that we're meant to be doing and doing differently. And so that's why we are not being able to add the value that we should. So for us, it's really about mentoring and support for the next generation of HR leaders. And that's why the program is targeted at early and mid-career HR professionals who want to become HR champions. It's a monthly program that covers a wide variety of HR-related subjects and topics that we believe are critical to building that right quality that will be front row and center in driving organizational success. The program will also provide additional learning resources to its participants. We hope to bridge the gap between what we call research and practice, that there is a lot that is known out there in the world about the best way to do HR, but there is a gap between what we know and what we actually do. So one of the objectives of the program is to bridge that gap. And very importantly, it will also give us the opportunity to network and to collaborate. We hope to keep this group together, possibly even on WhatsApp and other means of connecting and staying together so that we can learn, we can share, we can grow, and we can develop ourselves as human resources management professionals. And of course, as we continue to do this every month, we can continue to attract more people into our fold. It is not an exclusive group. It is really just a group of professionals who want to learn and who want to grow. So on that note, I have formally introduced the champions of HR program. I have also formally introduced myself. I also have a number of my colleagues from Learning Impact who are here, and I would like to welcome them. And I would like to also welcome all the other participants who have come from various organizations to listen, to learn, and hopefully to grow with us on this program. So I'm going to start off now by just sharing what we consider some basic rules of engagement. We have a 1 hour time frame to learn and to share and to network with each other. First things first, going to be recorded, and I believe it has already started being recorded. There's going to be a presentation from myself, and this is how all our sessions will run. Hopefully the presentation will last for about 30 to 35 minutes, followed by a Q&A. Please, all participants should kindly put their microphones off until the Q&A session. Participants may, however, send messages. You could feel free to chat. If you think about something, if you want to ask a question, if you want to make a comment as the presentation is going on, please feel free to do so by sending a message. But we would have time for an interactive Q&A session. And so I would encourage us to take advantage of that session to really interrogate some of the conversations. It's possible that due to network challenges, participants may be thrown out, or please do not panic. Just go back to the email that you received, click again, and you will be readmitted into the room. Okay? So on that note, I'd like to welcome everybody again, and I'm going to jump into the presentation right now, which is about the essentials of being a human resources management champion. So this is our very first session, and we are going to start off with those basics. In terms of an outline, as you can see on the screen, we're going to be talking about a number of things. Firstly, we're going to start with an overview of strategic human resources management, SHRM. And then we will explore, why does human resources management need a new agenda? Why do we need to do things differently? Then I would explore a number of limitations of the human resources management profession and professionals to do. So what are some of those things that are not working out properly for the HR profession? And then I would introduce the new mandate of HR encapsulated in the 4 HR champion capabilities that were developed by Dave Ulrich, the Emeritus Professor of Human Resources Management at the University of Michigan, Ross. And then building on his research and the amazing work that he did almost more than 2 decades ago, we will then talk about how we should manage HRM now and into the future. And we will end with a conversation about what HRM practitioners should do differently. Okay, so essentially, ladies and gentlemen, this is the outline. This is our agenda for this evening. And I'm going to jump right in with an overview of strategic human resources management. And this is valuable for everyone just to get a sense of the whole field of strategic human resources management and where it comes from and some of the context and the theories and the research behind it. So in studying strategic human resources management, it's important to understand that there is the traditional view of human resources versus the contemporary view. The traditional view thinks about human resources as merely tools, like on a production line. You move the product or the product from one person to another. So human resources or human beings were considered just tools on the production line to achieve, the production of goods and services. That's the traditional view. And as the world changed and evolved, especially as we moved from an industrial age to a more knowledge age, then the contemporary view of strategic human resources management started to evolve. And this view is that it comes from the resource-based view of human resources, which really says that human resources are a resource. They are a valuable resource that consists of talent and innovation and capabilities that organizations should harness properly to achieve strategic competitive advantage. So rather than just seeing human resources or people who work in organizations as tools, now people are perceived as enablers, as drivers, in fact, as the core strategic assets that organizations have. So if you think about the innovation that human beings bring into organizations, that innovation, when harnessed properly, will ensure that the organizations achieve sustainable competitive advantage. Now, building on this contemporary view, we can then think about what the real purpose of human resources management is. The purpose of human resources management, therefore, is to galvanize all the resources of is to galvanize all the resources of the organization to ensure that it achieves strategic competitive advantage. So the real purpose of human resources management is to ensure that the organization is able to achieve its strategic goals. So that's the real purpose of HR. And this is important because sometimes people think that HR's job is to make employees happy. People think that HR's job is to be an arbiter between the employees and the owners. Those may be secondary purposes of HR, but the real purpose of HR is to do what? Human resources management is to galvanize the human resources of the organization with the structure and the systems of the organization to ensure that the organization achieves sustainable competitive advantage. Now, this is very important, and this is going to continue as we talk and as we learn. That point is absolutely critical. Third very important thing to note about human resources management is that when it is done properly, it achieves two things, what we call a vertical and a horizontal alignment. So in order for human resources management to be able to deliver on that sustainable competitive advantage, there is the vertical alignment that really talks about the various key aspects of human resources management. Sometimes we use the word the employee life cycle. So from recruitment and selection to onboarding, to performance management, to career management, to learning and development, to compensation and reward. These are the vertical aspects and they are internal to HR. So HR must work through these vertical aspects while also integrating and aligning with the horizontal. And the horizontal actually refers to the other departments in the organization. So HR will work vertically to ensure that activities are aligned, but also those activities must be aligned with the horizontal, with operations, with product development, with marketing and sales, with corporate communication, with every aspect of the organization. This is when HR is effective, when HR is aligned vertically as well as horizontally. So I've shared with you a brief overview of strategic human resources management. We've talked about the traditional versus the contemporary view, the real purpose of HR, which is to support and drive sustainable competitive advantage, and then how HR will achieve this through vertical and horizontal alignment. So why does HR need a new agenda? Well, the world has changed. Interestingly, Things like globalization have been a big for the last 20 something years, and it is still an important trend. The impact of technology in everything that we do. Think about how much automation takes place in our organizations, how much automation drives our world. Think about what we are doing right now, all enabled by high quality technology. The third very important reason on the screen, and I will explain this, is something we call the growth mindset. You see, the traditional view of HR and of organizations was that if organizations are struggling with their performance and are struggling to achieve results, then what they need to do is start to right size, to downsize, to cut costs and to reduce their operations. That's the traditional view. The more contemporary view to organizational dynamics is driven by innovation, by growth, that rather than respond to challenging circumstances by shrinking, forward-thinking organizations respond to challenging circumstances by growing, by innovating, by tapping into their human capital and using that human capital to transform through effective HRM practices and through effective leadership. So the world, people are not concerned now with stacking people and right sizing and downsizing and restructuring. The best organizations are concerned with growing. How can we grow on a sustainable basis? Another important trend is around the knowledge economy. And I think I mentioned this earlier where I talked about we've moved from an agrarian economy. First we started with a subsistence economy where everybody sort of took care of themselves. Then we moved to an agricultural or agrarian economy where people, went to the farm and sold and exchanged their goods. Then we went into an industrial society where we started talking about equipment and manufacturing and factories. But now we are in the knowledge economy, where the most important capacity that human beings, that organizations use is the intellectual capital of their IT people, of their product development, of their sales and marketing people. In this knowledge economy, HR needs to change. HR needs to be different. In that growth mindset, HR needs to change. Today, we are in a world and in a workplace that is described by many people as VUCAD, VUCAD, volatile, uncertain, complex, ambiguous, and disruptive. A workplace and a world that is changing and evolving, that you cannot even fathom what the next 3 months will bring. New changes, new complexities, different things, both positive and negative, and they are impacting our organizations. HR cannot continue to be business as usual in that VUCAD world and VUCAD workplace. And then arising from this volatile, uncertain, complex, ambiguous, and disruptive workplace is that the nature of work itself has changed. People are embracing alternative work arrangements. The concept of a career is no longer, people are doing gigs. People are working 3 or 4 different jobs. People are working remotely. The world has changed. And as that nature of work has changed and will continue to change and evolve, HR needs to be different and to be responsive and not reactive to that changing world. Again, I've shared with you about why HR needs a new agenda. I've shared with you about the basics of strategic human resources management. Let's move on to talk about some of the limitations of the HR professional today. So why is it that as all of these things are going on, as the organizations are evolving, the needs are evolving, why is it that HR unfortunately struggles sometimes as professionals and as a profession to able to add value? One of the biggest challenges, and this is for real, is the professional challenge. Remember, I introduced myself as a chartered accountant. So the accountancy profession exists as a profession that is exclusive, that requires professional examination and mentoring and all sorts of things for you to become an accountant. It is the same for lawyers. It is the same for doctors. But with due respect, let's tell ourselves the truth. It is not the same for human resources management. So that level of professionalism, that exclusivity that comes with a professional group doesn't exist in management, and not just in human resources, but in many other aspects of management. So there are no barriers to entry. Anyone can come in and anyone can go out at any point in time. People will go to school, people will learn. I mean, I got into the human resources management profession myself without any professional training, without any certification, or without any academic experience. And that is how many people come into HR. So there is a professionalism challenge. There is also what I described earlier, which is the gap between research and practice. So in as much as there is the professional challenge, there's also the challenge that whereas there is lots of research going on and lots of new ideas about how things should be done in human resources management, people are not paying attention to this research. People are not paying attention to this innovation. The model I'm going to share with you today from Dave Ulrich dates back as far as 1990 something. So if somebody had, researched and come up with ideas as far back as the 1990s about the way HR should be, why is it taking so long for some of those to become practice? A third limitation of the HR profession and HR professionals comes from the dearth of analytical skills. HR people tend to be afraid of numbers. They tend to be afraid of being analytical. In fact, they beat their chests and pride themselves on the fact that, according to them, HR is not about numbers. HR is about people. That is a fallacy. Everything is wrong with that statement. Because if the ultimate purpose of HR is to galvanize the people resources and the organization towards achieving sustainable competitive advantage, then HR must be about analytics. HR must be about numbers, because you do not measure sustainable advantage by how people feel. You measure sustainable competitive advantage by results, tangible results. And when HR people are unable to speak the language of business, the language of sustainable competitive advantage, then there is no way that organizational leaders, who tend to be accountants, engineers, and business people, will take HR seriously. Finally, from my experience and from some of the research, it is about a perception challenge also. HR is often perceived, and I felt this way. The first time I got involved in HR tended to be perceived as sometimes even a dumping ground. That if you are not doing well in operations, if you are not doing well in marketing, or if you are somebody who is not very aggressive and hungry to succeed as a business professional, then the best place to go and cool off is in HR. So when they want to cool you off in your career, you go to HR. And so there is this wrong perception about what HR is and the value and that perception sometimes, unfortunately, becomes reality. So the people who go into HR come in with this perception that I am in HR because I really don't want to be in the hustle and bustle of the commercial aspects of the organization. Foul. If that is your perception about HR, then you have missed it. Because HR is meant to be that central engine room that is galvanizing the entire organization and people to achieve results. HR must understand the context of results in organization. And if you continue to fall victim of that perception challenge and create those ceilings for yourself, then you are not going to become the HR champion that you should become. So we've talked about some of the background of strategic human resources management. I just shared with you some of the challenges that HR people and HR professionals are going through. So what's the solution? Dave Ulrich came up with an amazing model of the 4 HR champion capabilities. And this is really at the core of this entire program. When I became aware of these capabilities at the early stage of my own HR career, it was absolutely transformational. I looked at these 4 capabilities and I asked myself, Bishe, where are you today along these 4 capabilities? Where is the gap? And what can you do to bridge this gap? So let me introduce the 4 HR capabilities very quickly to you. According to Dave Ulrich's model, HR should be a strategic partner. HR should be a change agent. HR should be an administrative expert. And HR should be the people champion. And I hope that everybody can see on the screen these 4 key capabilities. So let's explore them one after the other. HR as a strategic partner. It's about the ability of HR to design an organizational strategy, an organizational architecture, to interrogate the strategy and architecture of the organization and determine where its strengths and weaknesses are, to come up with solutions to address any gaps in the organizational strategy and architecture, and to ensure that its activities are vertically and horizontally aligned, which I spoke about earlier. So here's what I would like everyone to think about. As a human resources management professional, how well can you deliver on these 5 items? How competent and capable are you? If you are going to become a human resources management champion, you need to be more strategic. The second core capability of strategic of a HR champion is HR as a change agent. Change is part of organizational reality. It is the most constant thing in the world. And we can come up with, there's so many adages and proverbs about change. Your organizations are changing. The society is changing. Our world is changing. What is our response? As a change agent, HR should be able to embrace change. HR should be the person that is at the forefront of organizational change. You should be able to develop a unique change management strategy to deal with every change that goes on in your organization. You should be able to create and foster a culture of innovation. You should be able to build the DNA of change in your organization, supporting managers, leaders, professionals, and the entire organization to know how to change. And very importantly, you should be able to lead cultural change. You may have heard that very interesting statement credited to Peter Drucker that says, culture is strategy for breakfast. Organizations need to have the right culture, and HR is the custodian of organizational culture and change. Thirdly, HR must be an administrative expert that builds the right structure and systems in the organization, that pushes the organization to be efficient and effective through proper work design, through the proper deployment of resources, and must be able to hold everyone accountable by using metrics, KPIs, and analytics and data to drive the success of the organization. So I want you to think about what I'm saying now. So when they ask you as a HR professional, what can you do? You don't say, oh, I can write people's letter of appointment. No. I can keep files for HR. No. I can approve leave. No. Those are the business as usual things. The HR champion is a strategic partner, a change agent, is an administrative expert, and finally, is a people champion. He or she should be somebody that understands what it takes to keep employees engaged, empowered, and ensure the wellness of employees in the organization. They must be people who understand the ethical implications of doing business and business ethics, and also are conversant with all the compliance requirements, whether it is pensions or NHIS, whatever compliance laws are there for the practice of HR organizations. You need to be an expert in these things, and you need to be the voice of ethics and compliance in your organization. And very importantly, as a people champion, you must be able to build the capability of managers to engage, to empower, and to create a psychologically safe workplace. So again, this is the mandate of HR. This is what we expect HR people to be able to do beyond the business as usual of personnel management. This is the higher calling. And if we can achieve this higher calling, then we can get our seats on the strategic table and we can become a key driver of organizational success. If we do not build these capabilities, then we will continue to be an afterthought. Something that people, when the real business people have finished discussing business, then they will call HR as an afterthought to come and clean up their mess. That is not the role of HR. So building on these 4 capabilities, and I'll be wrapping up shortly, how should we manage the HR function and the HR professional going forward? First is to get everybody in the organization to understand that people matters actually matter. That yes, the purpose of organizations is to achieve sustainable competitive advantage, but that there is a relationship between happy, productive, engaged people and sustainable competitive advantage. And that gospel needs to start coming from well-rounded human resources management professionals like the ones in this room. Secondly, we must link all our HR practices to business results. Gone are the days of, why are we doing this? Oh, because it is good, because it is best practice, because it is a fad, because it is popular, because it is trending, because it is right. Foul. Everything we do in HR must be linked to business results. What are these things that we are doing in performance management, in employee engagement? Like we say in Nigeria, what difference are they going to make? We must, of course, continue to invest in what we describe as high performance work practices, differentiated practices in performance management, in learning and development, in employee engagement and wellness that bring out the best in organizations. So as a HR professional, you need to ask yourself, what are these high performance work practices? We must invest in them, and we must get our organizations to invest in them and link them to business results. We must continue to strive to upgrade the HR profession and challenge ourselves to be more professional. We must invest in building line manager capability. And we must continue to invest in differentiated skills for HR professionals, which is really what we are trying to do through this mentoring program, to expose HR professionals to different skills that are required for them to succeed. So we've talked about what we should do to manage HR generally, what CEOs should do, what society should do, what leaders should do, what HR people should do generally around HR. But I'd like to end with, what should you do as an individual, as a professional? What should you do to be unique and to be different and to push yourself to become a champion of HR? And on the screen, I have a number of things. First, you must learn and speak the language of business. And the language of business is performance. It is results. It is metrics. It is KPIs. It is strategy. That is what organizational leaders are concerned with. This does not mean that we are not concerned with people, but we are concerned with how we would galvanize our people resources to achieve the results. That is the purpose of the organization. We are also concerned that people are happy, that people are engaged. But all of that happiness and engagement will take place in an organization where we are all focused on one goal: sustainable competitive advantage that will be good for employees, that will be good for managers, that will be good for the owners, and will be good for our society at large. So let's not misunderstand it. Positive organizations exist to achieve results. Those results are not just for the shareholders. They are for the common good of the entire society, including the employees of that organization. HR professionals should focus on results and value. They should focus on that recurring theme of sustainable competitive advantage. They should focus on transformation rather than just control. Control practices in HR are about queries, about sanctions, about policies, about deductions. Yes, they are useful because human beings are not perfect. But our bigger focus should be how can we get the right quality of people in a transformational way to achieve results. And then finally, but by no means the least, we should develop the capabilities to be HR champions. This is absolutely important. So ladies and gentlemen, what have we talked about so far? We've talked about what it is to be a HR champion. We've talked about why it is important for HR to change and why the world has changed and how we should respond to that change. And we've also talked about some of the critical capabilities that are required for HR people to succeed, how HR should be perceived differently, what we should do to change HR. And we ended with what you should do to become a more effective HR professional. At this point, I just want to share one thing. I will put it up on the screen, and then hopefully you will get the opportunity to interrogate this individually. So it's a self-assessment that I'd like to share. Let me just see if I can put it up on my screen. And we can go through this. The self-assessment just asks a number of questions. Let's see. My system is, yeah, okay. I think I should have it now. Yeah, so very briefly, go through the self-assessment. The idea behind the self-assessment, I hope you can see, is just to flesh out some of these HR capabilities. And then we now start asking ourselves, are you able to do those things? And then you can rate yourself as a strategic partner, rate yourself as a change agent, rate yourself as an administrative expert, and then rate yourself as a people champion. And if you are brutally honest, you can, consolidate your ratings, and it will tell you where your strengths are and where your weaknesses are. And this was the type of self-assessment I did for myself about 15 years ago when I first encountered the HR champion model, and when I first became a HR practitioner myself, right? And it has significantly helped because all through the years, I can see myself growing. So it's very important that everybody, looks at this self-assessment and is honest in assessing themselves, right? So I'm going to pause now, and I'm going to leave the floor open for you all to make your contributions, to ask your questions, and we can interact for another 25 minutes or so. I see a question about whether the slides will be made available. Yes, the slides will be made available. The self-assessment will also be made available to all the participants. So you don't have to worry about all of these things. So let's jump into a Q&A. I'm going to go into the chat You can indicate, by raising your hand, or you can share the question on the group, and I'll pick it up and I'll try to respond to it. Okay? Yes. So I see a question from Adebukola. She says, or he says, I'm not sure who Adebukola is. It's a she. Can we get access to the self-assessment? Yes, and I think that my colleague has already shared it. Yes, we will get access to the recorded version, and yes, the slides will be sent to everybody who participated. So let's interrogate what it takes to be a champion of HR. Anybody? Questions, comments, clarifications you would like to seek? Let's have an enriched conversation. So you've heard from me for the last 35 minutes now. It's time for me to hear from you. What do you think? HR champions are not shy of asking questions. So please feel free to ask your questions. That's the only way we are going to learn and grow.
Hello, sir.
Is Billy Aminu? Is that?
Yes,
go
sir.
ahead, please. You have
Good afternoon, sir. Yes, sir.
Good afternoon.
So I need a more clarification between vertical and horizontal element, as you said for the previous lecture.
Okay, vertical and horizontal alignment. I will try to
Yes, sir.
respond
I need
to that.
more shed light about it.
Right.
Yes, sir.
Excellent. Thanks for that question, Billy Aminu.
Right.
And any more questions from other participants? I could take the participants, the questions together. Okay, I see from Angela. Angela is asking, let me just see. Okay. Can you shed more light on the VUCAD concept? All right, so that's from Angela. VUCAD. I'm going to talk about that. And then I also see a question. My question is, as someone who is starting, and this is from my baby caller, who is starting out in HR, how do you start to build all of the capacity? How do you start to build all of the capacity that is required? Very good question. Let's see any more questions from participants before I jump into trying to respond to these questions. Questions going? Questions going? Questions gone. So I think I have 3 questions, and I will try to respond to those questions. So first, vertical alignment is about the internal dynamics of HR, of the HR department, of the employee life cycle. And I think I spoke about the fact that the HR department and the employee life cycle consists of different things, from recruitment and selection to compensation to performance management to learning and development, all the way to talent and succession planning and even exit management, right? So this is the vertical. So it means that the HR practitioner, whatever you do must align. So what you are doing in performance management must be aligned with what you do in recruitment. What you do in recruitment must be aligned with what you do in career management. What you do in talent management and succession planning must be aligned with what you do in orientation and onboarding. That is, your activities must be vertically aligned. Okay, and then horizontal alignment is about the alignment across the other departments within the organization. So how are these vertical activities playing out in operations, in communication, in marketing, in sales, in product development, in technology? How do they impact on the overall strategy of the organization? So when you are able to do all of these, then your HRM is what? Is vertically as well as horizontally aligned. Thanks for that question, Billy Aminu.
Thank you very much, sir. Yes,
Angela asked about VUCAD. VUCAD is a concept, it's just a term that is used to describe the way the world is to be. That the world is very V for volatile. There's a lot of volatility. Things are up and down. U for uncertain, there's a lot of uncertainty. C for complex, there's a lot of complexity. A for, and the word just dropped now. D for disruptive, yeah, that there's a lot of disruption and so on. And I don't know why I just forgot the A. Does anybody remember, any good student who was listening? I remember this. Volatile, uncertain, complex, ambiguous. That's the word. That there is a lot of ambiguity. Things are not very certain. Things are not cast in stone. You know, in those days, you could almost predict that if you started working in a company, you could work for that company for 30 years and retire with your full benefits. Well, the world has changed. We are in a volatile, uncertain, complex, ambiguous, and disruptive world. So that's what VUCAD means. And the point of VUCAD is that if that's the type of world we are in, then HR can certainly not continue to be business as usual. And Adebukola asks, so how do you build the capacity if you're just starting off your HR career? And like I said to you, when I started off my HR career as far back as 2007, one of the first things that I did was to look at this model. I developed myself. I took the attitude of, if I am new to something, then the first thing I must do is to have a brutal self-assessment. So you see that self-assessment that we shared with you, that's critical. Go and look at it. Measure yourself honestly against those capabilities. And ask yourself, where are you today? It's not rocket science. Each of those things, nobody was born with it. Nobody came out of their mother's womb being an HR person. Each of those things can be learned, but you can't learn it if first you're not prepared to unlearn what you have known before and to change your paradigm. And that's what this program is really designed to help you with. So continue participating in this program on a monthly basis. Do your brutal self-assessment, identify the gaps, and learn. And throughout this program, you know, every single month and in between the months on the WhatsApp groups and on social media, that's what we're going to be doing, sharing resources that will help you to bridge that gap. So for example, I went off and bought all of Dave Ulrich's books immediately. I became an apostle of Dave Ulrich, and I bought all his books, and I have read all his publications, and I have read as many of his papers. I mean, not all of them, but as many as I have laid my hands on, because he's quite an extensive writer. I follow him on LinkedIn, and this is for years, and I am continuously learning. So I would say that for you and anybody else who is thinking along those lines, the challenge is really just that initial self-assessment, which you have the tool now to help you, and then subsequently learning and pushing yourself to be better as a HR professional, right? And challenging yourself to do so. I see another question. I believe there's another question from Samaru Echo. She says, or he or she says, most companies regard HR as a necessary aesthetic, a necessary tick. How do you think that HR professionals can change this narrative? Yes, thanks for that question, Samaru. And I think that we spoke about that earlier. It's really about improving the quality of professionalism as HR professionals. It's about building, it's about adding value. Look, if you are a HR person and you sit in a management meeting and they ask you for your contributions, when people are talking in the management meeting, you are not saying anything. When people are discussing marketing, you have nothing to add. When people are discussing sales, you have nothing to add. When people are discussing product development, you have nothing to add. In fact, I have worked with HR people that when you are in a Manco meeting or an Expo meeting, the HR person is even sleeping while strategic discussions are going on. The HR person is concerned only with making sure that people have tea and have water and granules and biscuits. And when they finish doing the logistics, they are clapping for themselves and saying, oh, I organized the board meeting. But you are a member of the board, you are a member of the Manco, you are a member of the Exco, you are a member of the unit committee. What is the value that you are adding? So Samaru, that's a very simple way. But you can't add value. Nemo that quod non habet. You can't give what you don't have. So if you haven't developed yourself to understand the organizational strategy, to understand aspects of sales and marketing and other aspects of business. If you haven't taken an interest in really what makes organizations to succeed, and you think that all you are is an administrator or a personnel manager, when they say query, you will wake up. When they say fire people, you will wake up. No, that's not your job. Your job is to add value. So these are simple things you can do. Change the way you interact with people. Change the things you are concerned about. Usually, let me give you a simple one. Usually, when we recruit HR people, I'm in the process of working with one of our clients to recruit a HR manager. There's a question I always ask, and I have asked that question consistently since I came across the HR champions model. And the question is that if you come to work for our organization, and after a few months or years, we decide to redeploy you to another department, how would you react? And 50% of respondents, all 3 years, this is 16 years and counting, half of the people who respond always respond very upset, like with an emphatical, no, I am not interested. I am a HR person through and through. Those people, I immediately screen them off. You are not worthy. Because if you think that all the value you can add to an organization is being a HR person, then you are not ready to be a HR person. If you think that all you can learn is only HR, then you have missed it. Because like I said earlier, nobody came out of their mother's womb being a HR person. We all came out of our mother's wombs naked. So if we are going to stop being a necessary tick, a necessary aesthetic, then we need a paradigm shift about everything regarding HR. I hope that helps, Samari, and for other people who are interested in stop in being thought of as an aesthetic or a necessary tick of a box. And that's the reality. That is the way HR is perceived when HR doesn't add value. So we must add value. More questions? Anybody? We have gotten everything.
Hello, hi, this is Samara again.
All right.
Hi.
Ahead,
So I just have this question. In your professional opinion, do you think that it is better for a person who has experience in customer service, experience in operations, experience in procurement, experience in other things to be a better HR professional? Because going back to what you just said, when you interviewed some people and the question came up, if you are asked down the line to move from HR to other departments, would you? And 50% are upset. I don't understand why they're upset, because I think that being part of being a competent HR professional is you have experience with other departments. You know what the pulse is about. You know how they're feeling. You know what they want. So if you are unable to check all those boxes, then I'm not entirely sure what you're doing in the HR department. So I think,
and I agree with you.
Yeah. So now it takes me back to myself. I have over 8 years of experience, but not in HR. And I am trying to I'm trying to start a career in the HR profession. And it's really difficult because they look at my CV and they're like, oh, you've never done HR before, but I've done other things. So why aren't you looking at the other things? Why are you just saying, oh, I've never done HR before. Oh, I've never this and I've never that. So I think the narrative is HR professionals themselves need to unlearn things and know that people who come in with different experiences make better HR people. You know, so yeah, I guess my question is, what do you think about it?
Yeah, I agree with you. Let me put it this way, right? I haven't seen any research on it, but if I were to advise my own child or my sibling or somebody who I love and care about, including all of you who are here, as to the best way to start a HR career, my honest advice would be get more business and strategic experience. Experience the real concerns of the organization. And then you can add more value. But you are spot on. Your assessment about the scope of sometimes very senior HR professionals is a problem. So people who say, no, you don't have HR experience. I understand. When I joined HR, that's what people were telling me. People were telling me point blank that, how can you be the HR manager of a company, but you've never done. And I said, but I have done HR. I have recruited people. I have trained people. I have onboarded people. As a manager, I did all of those things. I have given people feedback. I have used performance management. I have set goals for people. I have monitored those goals. I have galvanized. This is about Samaru and everybody else. It's about understanding what is HR. I have galvanized people and organizations to achieve sustainable competitive advantage. The only difference is that I have been doing this outside the HR department, but I have been doing this as a manager and as a leader. And it's a very important mindset shift that is required, and you are spot on. One of the shortcuts to it would be professional training, because at the end of the day, too, as HR people, we want people to be more professional. So I would also advise and recommend anybody who is transitioning to get some professional exposure. I did that. When I first became a HR professional, I started to go for courses. I registered with the Association for Talent Development, which is the largest network of talent development professionals in the world, based in the United States. And I became a member of the ATD, and I would attend their conferences, and I would go for their trainings and their workshops and so on and so forth. Later on, I became a member of the Chartered Institute of Personnel Management in Nigeria, the Human Resources Management Association of Trinidad and Tobago, and so on and so forth. So I would also say that anybody who is wanting to come in, go through professional training and experience and build your competence, but never neglect your real experience. And if anybody is trying to jettison that real experience, they too need a change of mindset. So, and these are things that we also preach actively to our senior colleagues and the more experienced HR people, that we need to get away from that mindset, that 25 years working in HR, if you are doing personnel management, it's not very valuable. What we really want is strategic partners, change managers, administrative experts, and people champions in line with the HR champions model. So thanks very much for that question and that contribution that you have made, Samaru. All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, it looks like we are coming to the end of our program. I don't know if my colleagues from Learning Impact have a feedback form or some registration form that participants can complete some details, because this is important. One of the things we would like to do is to keep this as a network, and possibly, like I said earlier, even create a forum where we can continue to share with each other, to learn from each other, and to grow with each other, perhaps using any of the tools of perhaps WhatsApp and so on and so forth. So we'd like to keep your contact details. We'd like to connect with you. We'd like to share more resources. I know that some people who are here have reached out before saying that, they would like to receive mentorship and so on and so forth. And that's why this whole program was created. It was created so that, I could take a lot of my own experience and my own capabilities and expertise, and I could, in a very structured and creative way, mentor other people. Sometimes people reach out and say they want to be mentored. I always tell them that my first level mentorship, of course, is to my family. My second level mentorship is to the organization where I work. And then, of course, this is an effort of third level mentorship. Mentoring is hard, but I hope that through this program, I can continue to share, to mentor, and to impact the lives of the next generation of HR leaders. So I'd like to thank everybody for their time and for their attention, and look forward to continuing to connect with you and to learn and to grow with you. Okay. I think that there are a couple of forms that have been sent on the platform, so please let us click on those links. We can click on them and give some feedback about the session, as well as provide some of our information and so on. I think it would be valuable if we could could try out even getting a good picture very quickly. So I don't know if everybody is able to put on their cameras. I know we're in different places at different points in time, but it'd be good to be able to get that one nice picture of as many people who attended with their faces. So if you can put on your camera, and then one of my colleagues from Learning Impact can feel free to shoot and take a picture. So we can have some sort of a group picture where we are. Yeah, we have some people able to put their cameras on. I know it's a Saturday, people are in between champions, Arsenal and Chelsea, and all sorts of things that they'll be doing. Yeah, cooking and family affairs. But I think that, we spent an hour together, and it was certainly valuable time well spent. Yeah. Excellent. I see more cameras are coming on. So whoever is taking the pictures, please be taking the pictures, as many as possible. And then the rest of us, please feel free to continue to fill out the forms so that we can stay connected with you. I'd like to thank my colleagues from Learning Impact who play a critical role in organizing and working hard to see this succeed. Ogor and Regina and Joyce and Ben from the organizational development team at Learning Impact, and the other colleagues from Learning Impact, and to all of you, Angela, Damilola, Raimot, Ahmad, Chuku, Nkiruka, Adebukola, Mariam, Abdusalam, and everybody else who could make it here, Jamil, Moin, Nkiruka, Paul, Samaru, Pichuku, Raimot. Thank you all for your time and your attendance. And I hope that, you would continuously be with us. The program takes place every month. So as part of our alumni now, you certainly will get information about when the next session is coming. And feel free to bring a friend, so there's enough to share and there's enough to accommodate even more people on the program. Thank you once again. And on this note, I'll be signing out and asking you to enjoy your weekend and have a great week ahead. Take care, everybody.
Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of the weekend. Thank you. God bless you.
Oh, somebody's asking for item 7. Samaru, yes, there are always virtual chocolates. Just hold on. And because you asked so many good questions, just catch it. Right? Receive your virtual chocolate. You catch it, you unwrap it, and you absolutely enjoy it. It's a virtual experience. All right. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, sir. How much another one?